Welcome back to another episode of The Buddhist Secret. Today we'll be exploring the concepts of what is good and what is bad, good and bad. You see, I think that's very important because I remember when I went to school, my mom would always tell me, associate good people and don't associate bad people. But what does it actually mean? What does it mean to be good? What does it mean to be bad? Who is a good person? Who is a bad person? So today we'll be exploring this concept of good and bad. And also, we'll do a quiz to test if you know who is good and who is bad, to test your ideas. But before all this, of course, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme Buddha. So, I'd like you all to be upstanding and chant the Namaskara with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, you may now all be seated. So, good and bad. What is good and bad? You see, I decided to give it a definition. But before I give definition, obviously, let's consult the dictionary. Yeah, I bought a dictionary here. When I looked up good in a dictionary, you get, I got 23 meanings of what is of the word good. And of course, it's an essential word. And we're looking at the adjective, not noun or idioms or phrasal verb, just the adjective, right? Just 23. It means various things, but today we're talking about people. So if we look at the one that we should be looking at, it is, well, the example is, she tried to lead a good life, which is correct, behaving in a way which is morally right, or willing to help, kind to other people. And that is, there are 23 meanings. That is just 2 meanings, right? So that is good. Now what is bad? Well, of course, the complete opposite, right? Bad has how many meanings? Only 14. And obviously the complete opposite. It says not good. We've got unpleasant, serious, but obviously it's the opposite of good, because these are antonyms, right? Good and bad. Now, if that's how we define good, then what is a good person? Who is a good person? Do you need a clue? No? Okay. Are your friends good people? I hope, sincerely hope you're all nodding. Are your family good people? Your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, your grandparents, they're good people? Your teachers? Now, some of you are going to be like, well, some of them are good, especially like the ones that you like. And then there'll be some that are bad. We don't like them. So, okay, so there we found bad people. Okay. Thieves. Bad. Okay. Before that, let's have this quiz, right? A quiz is check who is good and who is bad, right? To check your understanding of good and bad, right? For this quiz, you don't need a pen, a pencil, paper. All you need is a hand. Yeah, just a hand, right? And all you need to do is thumbs up if he's a good person, thumbs down, of course, if he's a bad person. You ready? Okay. Question 1. Now, I want you to imagine this, right? Imagine there has been a massive war, right? And it has ended. And the country's army comes back defeated. Men, boys of all ages return to their worried families. Some of them have lost limbs, have been injured, and may even have severe illnesses, serious illnesses. Now, because of the war, or of all the damage, these people couldn't make, or everyone in the country couldn't make ends meet. They didn't have the money for homes, for food, for anything. And once an amazing economy crumbled in front of their very eyes. And the winning team, not the winning team, the winning side. The winning side had proposed for, had taken over 1/10 of their land. Their country wasn't massive, but the enemies have taken 1/10 of their land. These people were forced to dismantle their army, leaving them vulnerable, with no protection whatsoever. And they're forced to take full responsibility and pay respectively. Imagine that their entire country has now collapsed. They had no way to stand up, and they all felt defeated, humiliated. And they felt they were cheated by the government, by the opposing side, their enemies. And to make matters worse, in 1929, you probably, if you know your history, right? Which I didn't until I had to research, right? We all know in 1929, there was a Great Depression. Meaning what? The already really weak economy was no more. People were thrown onto the street, homeless, hungry, with nothing. Okay, all have that picture painted. Great. Is that a good thing? No. Okay. It's pretty terrible, right? But one man decides, you know what? This isn't how our country should be. We used to be amazing. And so he took charge. He promised the citizens, the people of the country, that he will restore the once great country. He said he will put it back to its former glory. Now, what do you think? Good or bad? Well, if you think about it, right? He's doing something good, right? The country has fallen down, and so he decides to return it to its former glory. Of course he's a good person. Well, I think it's good. I think it's good. I'm guessing you all think too. Someone who thinks positively. Someone who is enthusiastic. Who won't let his country down. Didn't want to see people sad, gloomy. He didn't want to see people homeless. And so he's decided to make change, to take action. So who is he? Who is this person that we're talking about? If you know, well, you know. Who is it? Do you want a clue? You see, we all think it's good, right? Everyone put if you think it's good, put your thumbs up, right? But what happens if I tell you that he was responsible for the largest genocide in human history? What? How did someone that was good become bad? Who is he? You probably know. If you know who was responsible for the largest genocide in human history, you all know it's none other than Adolf Hitler. So you all had your thumbs up for good, right? Now what? Bad. Well, do you want me to go on about what he had done? He killed many innocent men, women, children, Jews especially, gassing them, poisoning them, killing them when he walked along the street with his Nazis. He murdered all these people, all very innocent people. So is he good or bad? Well, you start off with good. Now what? Bad. So do you not see here we have something wrong? That when we talked about, when I gave you the description of the place and what he tried to do, you say he's a good person, but once you realize who he is, you immediately think he's bad. Okay. Question number 2. So we talked about Adolf Hitler, and he was a murderer, right? But what about... Okay, let's again paint another picture, right? Let's say 2 really good friends, right? They were friends for a long time. And these were really smart, intelligent people, right? So these 2 people, they go into a garage, right? And they start to code and make a game. And an amazing game that most likely we've all played, right? And so after they made the game, they decided to sell it, right? They decided to sell it, and they decided to have 50-50, right? Whatever we get, we'll do 50-50. Right? So one of the friends, he goes, right, and says, okay, I'll give you 50, I'll give you half. And he goes and sells the game, and he gets a check with a grand total of how much? $5,000. But is that what he tells his friend? The next day he goes to his friend and says, my dear friend, or whatever he said, we sold the game and we got $700 for that. 700. And so fairly, he divided his money. 700, so he gets 355. So he gets 350, and the other friend keeps 350. Right? Well, according to his friend's eyes, yes, this friend who separated the money was very, very loyal, very honest. That they decided to separate it, and they separated in half. 700, 350, 350. But is that what the actual friend got? No, the friend had got $4,650. Now, is this person a good person or a bad person? Well, honestly, what I think is bad. Of course. This person has to be a bad person. He's cheating his friend. He's not loyal. He's tricking. And the worst part is, his friend thinks he's loyal. Thinks he's trustworthy. Is he a good or bad person? Bad. Who is he? He is called the father of the digital revolution. He was a massive innovator. He was a design perfectionist. And in 2010, he had a net worth of $8 billion. Do you know who he is? If you don't, let me give you one more hint. Without him, we won't have phones, tabs, computers, laptops with a half-eaten apple on it. You know who he is, right? He's none other than Steve Jobs. Now, what do you think? Is he still a bad person? Or is he good? Bad or good? You decide. He had created a massive company that you and I, we all know. And he obviously had donated to many charities and so on and so forth. And so is he a good person, or is he bad because he was unfair? He cheated his friends. Is he good or bad? So how do you define what is good and what is bad? So when your parents say associate good people, associate the people who are good, and don't associate bad people. How do they define them? How do they define what is good and what is bad? Good, bad people? Well, we just met two people, right? One of them was, we thought they were good, and so did most of Germany, until later. And the second person we thought was a bad person, but until we know who he was and what he had done, he became a good person. So, bad and good? Okay. Question number 3. So we've talked about someone who kills, right? A cheater. But what about a drug addict? Made up your mind? Good, bad? All right. Now you're probably on like the line thinking, okay, the other two, they were, first one and they turned to another. So you're probably thinking, okay, this one's going to be the opposite. So drug addict, good. Well, be honest, right? A drug addict. That's all I'm going to say. A drug addict. Good or bad? So this person, when he has a serious problem, right? When there's a problem that he can't solve, his solution is cocaine. He intakes cocaine. He will stay in his room for hours at a time. And when his good friend knocks on the door, he doesn't open it. He doesn't want anyone's company. He doesn't want to be disturbed. Is he a good or bad person? Honestly? Well, I think bad. Okay. But what happens if this person turns out to be one of the most admired, or even the foremost fictional detective in the world? Now what? A detective. Is he good or bad? A detective? No. Well, who is the foremost fictional detective? No other than the greatest, Sherlock Holmes. Solves crimes that no one else can solve with the simplest of clues. sees a footstep, and can tell who this person is, how much they weigh, what their age is, everything, using their height, using shadows, using chemicals. And as I remember, he even got a prize in the real world. So you all know Sherlock Holmes is fiction, right? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was the creator. But he won an award in this real world. A fictional character, the first fictional character to win an award. I think something to do with chemistry, because he used chemistry to solve his crimes. So now what? Is Sherlock Holmes a good or bad person? Decide. Is he a good or bad person? A drug addict, bad. Solves crime, good. What is good and what is bad? So is Sherlock Holmes a good or bad person? Could you name him a good, like this is good? Or can you name him, he's a bad person? Okay. Question number 4. Right? Let's say another thief. A thief. Good or bad? Bad. Okay. A thief that robs. Not only robs, kills representatives of authority. Good or bad? Bad. He robs as many people as possible. And he is the enemy of the government. Good or bad? Enemy of the government, right? Bad. Okay. So we're going to name this person bad, right? This person is definitely bad. No doubt, bad. Full stop. What happens if he's no other than Robin Hood? Someone who steals from the rich and gives to the poor? Now what? Now, of course, he's good. He helps the poor. Of course, okay. He is enemies with the sheriff, but he's still good, right? Right? How do you define what is good or what is bad? So this person's a good person, this person's a bad person. How do you separate these two people? So when your parents say associate good people and don't associate bad people, where do you put the line? Where is that line? Honestly, I would like to suggest, what I believe is there is no such thing as a good and bad person. Now you'll be like, what? No such thing as a good or bad person? No, there isn't. There is no such thing as a good or bad person. What is good and bad is what they do. That is what defines them. What do I mean? Well, look at Adolf Hitler, right? The first question number 1, right? Here's the answer, right? Is he a good or bad person? I say he's neither. Now you'll be like, oh my God, Adolf Hitler is not a bad person? Are you suggesting he's good? No, I'm not saying he's good or bad. I'm not saying he's either. Well, he's neither good nor bad. Why? Well, look at it. When Germany fell below, hit rock bottom, he decided, you know what? I want to do something. I want to make a change. I want to make Germany great again. And so he did what he thought was good. And so what did he do? He went and made in his eyes what he thought was a great Germany. So does that make him a good person? Well, no, his actions were good. It's due to your action that you can say is good or bad. His intention was good, but then he also did bad things. He also murdered, well, hundreds of thousands of people. Jews, men, women, children, boys and girls. Not just Jewish, those. Of anyone. He fought a war, killing many people, bombing a lot of places. So is he good or bad? I say you cannot call him good or bad. You can't say Adolf Hitler is a bad person. Adolf Hitler is a good person. You can't say Steve Jobs is a good person or a bad person. His actions are good or bad. Because at that moment, right, when he was doing something good, he was a good person. But when he did something bad, he's a bad person. You can't name someone, say say that they're good or that they're bad. You see, the line which you can draw between good and bad is with their actions. You see, the Buddha says, you cannot be born an outcast. Neither can you be born as a good person. It is what you do that determines whether you're good or bad. It is what you do. If you do good, at that moment you're a good person. If you do bad, at that moment you're a bad person. So you cannot say that this person is a good person or a bad person. So when my parents, well, at that time when my parents told me associate good people and associate bad people, what I drew my line was, okay, good people. What do I name? What do I think good people are? And obviously I had the same ideas that you had. And don't associate bad people. And so I had the same ideas you had. But you tell me, have you never had a friend who does bad things but has a good heart? May do a lot of bad things, but yet he's very nice, kind to you. Of course. Someone who may shout at their teachers, but yet when he comes to his friends, he's ready to give his friends anything. If they ask for his heart, without a doubt, without a single second, without a single moment, he's ready to give it. But yeah, he shouted at his teacher. So how can you determine whether someone's good or bad? You can't label who is good and what is bad, who is bad. Now, when your parents tell you, okay, associate good people and don't associate bad people, that doesn't mean, okay, now you can associate anyone. What they're trying to tell you is, associate good qualities. Don't associate bad qualities. That is where you separate them with their actions, their qualities. Because you cannot judge anyone, right? We talked about, right? You can never judge a book by its cover. You can never judge if someone's good or bad. Because I've known a lot of people who would look at someone and say, he looks like a bad person. Because in their eyes, bad people look like this. How can you determine that? Okay, another good example. Someone gets a knife and stabs someone in the stomach, right? Using a knife, they stab someone in the stomach. Is that a good or bad thing? Bad? Okay, so what do you do to people who stab other people and cut their stomach or do some harm like that? What do you do to them? You what? They should go to jail? Okay. It looks like the police officers will have a very big job tomorrow. Why? They're going to have to arrest hundreds of thousands of what? Surgeons? What? Surgeons? We didn't talk about surgeons. Well, what do surgeons do? They have a knife. They they don't stab. They insert it into the stomach and they cut it open. So can you say that, okay, surgeons are good people and murderers are bad people? You cannot name someone as good or bad. What they do and their intention. So we talked about 3 things so far, right? Their action, what they do, their intention, why they do it, and both of those together determines what qualities they have, good and bad qualities. Now, why are we talking about this? Why do we talk about, okay, there's no difference between good and bad? Okay, so, like, what's the point of talking about it? Okay, now I understand. Okay, there's no such thing as good or bad. Well, if there's no difference or no such thing as good and bad people, does that mean you can associate anyone? Because let's say there's a person, right? A really big, muscular person, right? And they have, say, tattoos all over their arm and body, right? And they're staring at you. And let's say you're lost and you need help to find direction, right? And you see this guy. Would you go and say, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me the directions to the library?" Can you do that? You see a person that's really big, muscular, with tattoos all over their arms, right? And they may even have cuts, right? Meaning like they've been wounded by something that looks like a knife. Right? You look at this person and you think, okay, this person's really big and he's gonna do something. And can you go up to them and go ask them for directions? You're lost. You don't even know where the train station is, or there's no one else around but this person. Can you go and ask this person? "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me the directions to the train station?" Can you? Why not? Because he's a bad person? At school, you have to do some group work, right? And you're put in a group, and in your group, right, you have the bad person in your class. You know, the person who doesn't do their work, who is very who doesn't play by the rules, right? He or she is in your group. Now, what are your reactions? Oh, why does she have to be here? Can I not have my best friend instead? Or the smartest person in class? She is going to create a lot of distractions. She's going to destroy our project. He's going to do something. How do you know? What makes them a good or bad person is what they do. That's how you determine, right? What do you think is, according to addiction, right? What do you think is correct, right? That is what you think is that is what is right, right? What is correct? So could you label someone and say this is good, this is bad? No. At that moment, if they're doing a good thing, then you can label them as good. But the moment that they do something different, you're gonna have to take that label off. So when that really rude or when that really bad person in class is in your group, you cannot label them and say this is a bad person, this is a rude person. Until they do something. Until they do something bad, until they do something good. Because have you not seen people who change overnight? Have you never had that friend who you thought was a really good person, kind-hearted person, but then you go, say, in year 7 or grade 7, you meet them and you're really best friends and you've been friends for 2 years, but then in grade 9, 10, they change completely and they become the worst person in class? Has that not ever happened? That you become you're like best friends forever, and the next moment you become enemies. You can't stand the sight of them. Have that ever happened? Of course. How can you name someone? How can you say this is a good person or a bad person? How can you differentiate between good and bad? By just looking at them, by just knowing what they've done in the past. Can't you change overnight? Can't you change? First of all, are you good or are you bad? And your answer is? Think about it. You'll be like, okay, overall, I am good, but I do those bad things as well. Overall, I'm a good person, of course. I listen to what my mom says. I do all my homework. I go to school on time. But then I do mess around with my friends. I do secretly go into the kitchen and have taken a few snacks without my parents knowing. I do shout at my friends as well sometimes when they're gonna get angry. So overall, I'm a good person, but I do have some bad qualities, right? There is no such thing as good or bad people. Good and bad people, no. But there are good and bad qualities, good and bad actions, good and bad intentions. So, how do you define yourself as good or bad? Can you? Can you say that I'm a good person or I'm a bad person? Well, you know that you do good things. And so therefore you're a good person, right? But you also do bad things. So again, I propose that there is no such thing as good or bad people. There are good actions, there are good intentions, and there's good qualities. When someone does a good action with a good intention, then they're good people. You see, last time we talked about a mind, right? And we talked about how minds can change. That a single moment, a mind happens in a single moment. That this moment, a mind arises and disappears. If so, say at every single moment, if that happens, that means that a person could be good and bad for a single moment. A person can be good and bad for a single moment only. Why? Because the mind arises and passes away at that moment, this moment. We'll talk about that in a future discussion, right? In a future talk. We'll talk about what is random and is there such thing as random, right? We'll talk about that in the future, right? But today we're talking about good and bad. So you tell me, are you a good person or a bad person? Can you meet someone and say this is a good person and label them and say this is a bad person and label them? No, someone could be good but then also can do bad things. Someone could be bad and also do good things. So we can't label them. We can't expect this person can do something good and this person can do something bad. Why? Because we don't know who they are. We don't know whether they're going to do something good or bad. You see, you guys are all good people, right? You're going to be like, yes, but then also I do all those bad things. So, and you're going to nod diagonally, right? So you tell me, good or bad? At the moment, someone is doing something good. That's a good person. But the next moment, we don't know. The moment someone is saying, appreciating someone, you can say that's a good person. Next moment, we don't know. Say someone is going around shouting at people, swearing at people. Again, we will talk about these actions as well. Whether what is a good action and what is a bad action. What is a good intention and what is a bad intention. And good and bad qualities, we'll talk about all those in the future. I want you to be focused on defining what is good and what is bad. Why? Because I want you all to be good people. I want you to be people that people think is good. And I don't want you to think, okay, this person, I don't want to associate this person. Or I don't say it's group work, right? And you're with this bad person. I don't want to work with this person. Why? Because he's bad. I don't want that to happen. I don't want you to label anyone thinking this is a good, bad, none of that. Because you can't. You can't label Adolf Hitler as a bad person. Think of all the good things he's done. You can't label Robin Hood as a good person. Look at all the bad things he's done. So is everyone neutral? No. What I believe is that people will vary from good to bad. People, of course, some people will, their dial will be on good more of the time. Some people, their dial will be bad for most of the time. But there is a time. There is a time, not just a time, a person or people or types of people that their dial doesn't work. Meaning they do neither good nor bad. You can't tell that their dial is neither on good nor bad. Their actions are on good or bad. We'll talk about those in the future as well. There's so much to talk about, honestly, but so little time. So much to talk about in so little time. So don't go around and labeling people. People can be both good and bad. So you tell me, how did you score on the quiz? If you scored 5 out of 5, most likely you've watched this is your second time or third time watching. Because really, no one could get 100%. See, putting a knife through someone, you can't say it's good or bad. All surgeons have to go to jail. All the surgeons have to go to jail. And we can never have an operation. Why? Because they're doing bad things. A knife is going to be stabbed inside my stomach or inserted into my stomach. And that's a bad thing. No surgeons. Surgeons have to all go to jail. Or is putting a knife in someone, inserting a knife into someone a good thing? That means you can't arrest murderers. You see? It's their intention. Why? Why are they doing this? When you do something good, you get good karma. When you do something bad, you get bad karma. You see? So today I hope you understood, right? That you can't define someone as a good or bad person. What they do, their actions, their intentions, their qualities are good or bad. That's how you determine whether they're good or bad. At that moment only. But as the good, as people's qualities become better and better, as people get better qualities, have more good qualities, then you can say that they are good. Why? Because the more good qualities you have, the less likely you're going to do bad. The more good qualities you have, the less likely you're going to do bad. And so you could say, as the more they get, You can say that they're a good person more. Their dial will be more on the good side. But remember, that the dial isn't permanently on the good side. It can sometimes go back. But the more they get, the more likely it's going to stay on good. And then the more and more they get, that will be good, 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 good. And there'll be a time that dial is no longer there. And what's that? When you become an arhat? Well, we'll see about that in another discussion. Okay. So that's all from me today. I hope you realize what is good and what is bad, and how you determine if someone's good or bad. And so, let's take a few moments to transfer all these merits we've accumulated throughout our day to as many people and as many beings as possible. Let's take a moment to transfer the merits we've all acquired by making offerings to infinite virtue, noble triple gem, chanting prayers in Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be able to receive Lord Buddha's teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's transfer the merits to the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasikas who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of Buddha and passed down to generations of noble lineage in the form of Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend Dharma. Let's also take one chance the merits of all quiet to all the members of Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief priests of all chapters, who sacrificed their life in noble path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's remind ourselves among them will be the monks and nuns present in local temples and nunneries who have always been by sight to contain common or shine. Let's all take one chance the merits of good San Nansi, as well as the monks present in the monastery, as well as the Angarikas and Angarikas attached to the monastery. Let's all take one chance the merits and express our gratitude to those who made great effort to disseminate teaching of Buddha, be that by translating the sermon, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them, may the merits, if any of them born with blame, may they redeem themselves, be born with blame, may the merits, may they abstain from meritorious deeds. For the meritorious deeds, for them for part in the Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sad, sad, sad. Let's all take one chance the merits that we've all acquired to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, those of you who provide Mahasangha shelter, alms, robes, medicines, as well as those who pass on their know-how, extend their well-wishes, may the merits, may they abstain from meritorious deeds, fulfill meritorious deeds, fulfill them for part and attain Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sad, sad, sad. Ultimate transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, grandsons, and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, elders, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any way, shape, or form by the power of merits, may they heal on physical mental ailments, may they overcome any obstacles in the spiritual progress, may they abstain from meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the effort path, and attain Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sad, sad, sad. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, Spirit, Demon, Parama, Sakra Deva, as well as numerous gods and deities who have committed to protect and fulfill the symbol of Sasana. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to God and deities who keep watch of us, keep us of harm's way, may the power merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the effort path, and attain Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sad, sad, sad. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who predeceased us, to all that's been friends, family, acquaintances in this long journey samsara. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to all those who have helped us, support us, assist us in any way, shape, or form. Let's take a moment to transfer the merits. Let's all take a moment to transfer the merits to the members of the armed forces, as well as police force, who sacrificed their lives to spread the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those lost life and war be the friend and foe of the merit required today. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to all those lost life in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, and pandemics. Reminding ourselves that among them will be those who've been friends and family to us in long journey samsara. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to them, may the power merits. If any of them born with a blame, may they redeem themselves, we will display, may the power merits, may they abstain from meritorious deeds. For the meritorious deeds, for the way for path and Supreme Bliss of Nibbana. Sad, sad, sad. Finally, all resolve, may the power and blessing of all the merits required throughout the day. We've been witnessed the event of many hundreds of thousands of our hearts in this blessed land. And finally, may the power of all the merits required today. You and I and everyone who made this program success become our Nuance, or our heart main Nuance in this very life in the era of Gautam Supreme of the Self. Sad, sad, sad.